Okay, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at a couple of essays that have been sent by channel members. If you want me to correct any of your work or if you want any more personalised content, and have a look at the blue button options under the video. But what am I going to be doing today, and why is this a public video? Why is it not for members only? Well, I haven't made a writing video on the channel for a while, so I thought this was a good opportunity to talk through the proficiency writing paper, because I've got a couple of different exercises here, and I'm going to go through the criteria that Cambridge give for correcting these essays. Obviously that's not something I'm an expert in. I do correct a lot of writings, but at the end of the day I'm a TEFL teacher. I'm not a Cambridge examiner. So if anyone thinks that I'm making any mistakes with my correcting, well, you've got a whole comment section under this under this video where you can tear me a new one. Let's get on with it, I suppose. Writing. Okay, so here we have an article written by Roland from Hungary. Now, it's always better if I can see the exam question here so that I know if the tone and style of the article are correct. But let's have a look at the structure an article should have. We should always start with an attractive title, drawing the attention of readers and indicating the article's theme. Well, Roland does that essentially here, the difficult relationship of Oliver Twist and the Artful Dodger. Well, I would change of for between, but I think that's enough to make it sound interesting and make us want to read on. Right, so after the title, our first paragraph should be an introduction clarifying the theme and attracting the reader's attention. Let's see. If you wanted to read a novel which shows the relationship between two totally different characters, I would recommend Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Okay, so not a bad introduction, I don't think. Again, it would be interesting to know who the target audience is, but so long as it's consistent, I'm going to give this a pass. And I think grammatically speaking, there's nothing wrong with this introduction. So, okay, good. Let's go on. So after the introduction, what we want is the first main body paragraph, of which there will be two. So from the introduction we have read, it sounds like we're going to hear something about the novel Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, and we have to be informed in some way of a difficult relationship between two characters from that novel. We want a bit of background then in this first main body paragraph. Then we want a bit more commentary, I think, in the second paragraph. So let's see how that goes. The story of Oliver Twist is slanted against the injustices of social differences in Victorian society. Okay, so slanted against I don't think is the correct term here. I think what we want to say is it's like a critique of the injustices in Victorian society, no? So maybe what we could say is that Oliver Twist rallies against the injustices of social differences. Well, differences are not necessarily negative. Maybe you want to be more emotive. Social inequalities. The social inequalities of or in Victorian society. Poor people were ostracized by society. Many affluent citizens claimed the moral high ground, but they failed to be humane at that era. So, a couple of things here. I would want to avoid repetition of the word society so quickly after having said society. And I'd want to show that these two or three ideas here are kind of linked. So let's rearrange those two sentences. Let's see if we can make one more concise sentence. While the affluent citizenry of the era often believed themselves to be in possession of the moral high ground, their actions regularly lacked humanity, and the poor were frequently ostracized by the community. The streets were fraught with danger. Love that sentence, really good. Their survival instincts overruled any moral issues. Be careful here with your pronouns. Their survival instincts sounds like you're talking about the streets, because that's what we've just mentioned in the previous sentence. Also, I think it's very important here to show that there is a link between the previous idea and the one we're trying to express now. We want to make it clear that we believe that it is because the poor were ostracized by the community that the streets were fraught with danger. And I think the idea you want to express here in the final sentence is that because of these situations, these factors, survival instincts took precedent over moral issues. The streets were therefore fraught with danger, and survival instincts superseded any moral qualms. Qualms is a really useful word here, I think, if you want to look that up. Okay, let's move on to the second paragraph of the main body. I would mention at this point that nothing really about the novel has been mentioned yet, other than sort of the basic setting that we're in Victorian Britain, and there's a lot of inequality and stuff like that. And remember, we're supposed to be talking about the relationship between two characters, a difficult relationship. So that could be slightly problematic. Again, I would have to see the question to know more objectively, but so far that seems like it might be a bit of a problem. As I say, let's go on to the next paragraph and see if this kind of sorts itself out, if it's consistent or not. Let's go on. Oliver Twist was born in a decrepit workhouse. Okay, pretty good. He was born in a decrepit workhouse. It was sort of moving on to describing the background of one of the characters here, I guess. Her mother, oh dear, his mother, I think, passed away soon after he was born. His father abandoned him. I think that should be two separate sentences, really. He is a puerile boy. He absconds from the workhouse and goes to London in the fervent hope of finding safety. He never loses his innocence throughout the novel. This character can arouse sympathy among readers. Not sure about can arouse. This character arouses sympathy among readers, I suppose. Okay, so not really sure again about the structure here. Really, I think we should briefly describe the setting of the novel in the context of introducing the two characters in the first paragraph, and then go on to describe their relationship in the second paragraph of the main body of the text. I think to sort of describe basically Victorian Britain, then very briefly in sort of very short, sharp sentences who Oliver Twist is. And then I think what we're going to see in the next paragraph is the description of the Artful Dodger along similar lines. I don't think that that's quite right myself. Let's carry on. Jack Dawkins, the Artful Dodger, is a dexterous pickpocket who is definitely a victim of the circumstances, I suppose, of his circumstances, no? His appearance and his attitude resemble a grown-up man. While many of the fortunate few are learning from books in classrooms at his age, he is studying at the University of Life on the streets. He cannot change his status quo. He cannot change his status quo. If he had been brought up by a loving family, he would have been a prim and proper person. Okay, so a fairly interesting description of the other character. So I think finally in this next paragraph we're going to get into the relationship between the two of them. Let's go. Their roads cross when Oliver arrives in London. Okay, I think we should make it clear whose roads cross, even though I guess it's fairly obvious, but our two protagonists' roads cross, or the two characters' roads cross, when Oliver arrives in London, but okay, fairly understandable. The hungry and desperate boy sees a good friend in him, in Jack, no, in the Artful Dodger. Let's make sure we make it very clear who is the hungry and desperate boy and who is the good friend, and who does he see a good friend in. So yeah, I guess we're talking about Oliver, and he sees a good friend in the Artful Dodger, right? The deceitful little criminal offers him shelter and food and takes advantage of his naivety. Okay, very good. The Artful Dodger brings him to the manipulative, old, egoistic Fagin. Okay, again, we must be careful with the pronouns here, because people are going to get confused. People who don't know the story are going to get confused about who is who, right? He takes Oliver to meet the manipulative old egoist or egomaniac Fagin, who is the leader of a criminal group. When Jack steals the handkerchief of an elderly gentleman on a crowded street, onlookers catch Oliver and accusing him committing this petty crime. And accuse him of committing this petty crime. So we know how they've met. We know something about the character of the two and something about their interaction. Not really sure this is describing a difficult relationship too much so far. I mean, we don't have any real commentary on it. Again, I think there's some organizational issues here. All right, I think we need to be really clear about where we're going with this article. Yeah, we're trying to describe a difficult relationship and describe why it's difficult and what we can sort of extrapolate that from that into the real world, essentially. Okay, so let's carry on. Okay, so what we're going to see now is the conclusion, where we should see either a summary of the theme or a final opinion, recommendation, or comment. In summary, Oliver, the orphan, craves for affection and acceptance. Well, I think crave is a transitive verb, so the orphan craves affection and acceptance, no need for for. Although the Artful Dodger pretends to be a good friend of Oliver, I suppose pretends to be a good friend to Oliver, he leaves him in the lurch when he gets in trouble. Okay, you never expect a paragon of virtue, of someone who is stuck in the quagmire of hopelessness. Okay, so I suppose this is the moral that the writer, Roland, wants the reader to take away from the relationship between Oliver and the Artful Dodger that he has depicted. Okay, so let's take a look at the criteria to get C2 level, or 5 out of 5 in all of the things that you're judged on in the writing task. And I'm going to give what I think, right? And then, you let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I'm sure there must be some people watching this who have more of an idea of what they're doing than me. There must be someone out there. Is there anyone who has more of a clue than me? Possibly. Let's find out. We'll find out in the comments section. Okay, so let's see what I would give Roland here when looking at all of the things that we need to look at. So first of all, in this table, we can see content, right? So for 5 marks, it says all content is relevant to the task. Target reader is fully informed. I haven't seen the task, right? But from what the title said and from what I thought I was going to read, I thought it was going to focus more on the relationship between two characters, the fact that it was difficult and what we can extrapolate from that. And it kind of really only got into the last paragraph of the main body. It mentions how the characters met and briefly one anecdote, albeit an important anecdote that occurs between them. And then there's kind of a moral in the final paragraph about what we can extrapolate from that. So I'd say 3 might be generous there. Minor irrelevances, definitely, and or omissions
may be present. Target reader is on the whole informed. Yes. I think I would go for a 3 there, right? And let me know if anyone's got any other idea about this. If, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I would say 3 there. I mean, it says 1, there's misinterpretation of the task. Target reader is minimally informed. I wouldn't go that low. I wouldn't go as low as 1, because I wouldn't say minimally informed. I'd say we were well informed. But I think we'd be hovering between 2 and 3 there, myself. Communicative achievement. So top marks demonstrates complete command of the conventions of the communicative task. Communicates complex ideas with an effective and convincing, in an effective and convincing way, holding the target reader's attention with ease, fulfilling all communicative purposes. The conventions of the task. It was an article. It read like an article. And what does it say in 3? Uses the conventions of the communicative task with sufficient flexibility to communicate complex ideas in an effective way, holding the target reader's attention with ease, fulfilling all communicative purposes. I've got to say there were a few problems with sort of the linking of ideas and the way it was organized. I know organization is the next section, and I do kind of get communicative achievement and organization confused a lot of the time. I mean, let's see, if it were as low as 1, it says uses the conventions of the communicative task effectively to hold the target reader's attention and communicate straightforward and complex ideas as appropriate. You know, I think I would go, and I don't want to be too harsh because, again, like I said, I'm not an expert at correcting these things. I wouldn't go as low as a 1. But yeah, I think we'd be somewhere between 2 and 3 again, right? There were a few problems, as I mentioned, while I was correcting it. But okay, let's see. We've got a couple of other things here. Organization. So for top marks in organization, you need a text. Text is organized impressively and coherently using a wide range of cohesive devices and organizational patterns with complete flexibility. Now, I wouldn't describe that essay like that, right? There are a few problems kind of linking some of the ideas together. The text was not organized in the way that I would expect the article to be organized, frankly, because, as I said, really you need an introduction telling me what you're going to talk about, which is a difficult relationship in theory between 2 characters. In the first paragraph of the main body, I would describe the sort of the setting, the background in which these 2 characters meet. The next paragraph, I'd move on to how the characters, how they interact, how their relationship is difficult, and then the conclusions I can take from that. I wouldn't say it was very coherent in that sense. I mean, for 3 marks, it says text is a well-organized, coherent whole using a variety of cohesive devices and organizational patterns. Maybe it could get a 3. I think if I'm going to be honest, and I don't want to be harsh, I think I would go 2 again. Right, so we're really hovering on a pass, somewhere between a pass and a fail here so far. Language. Now, language is Roland's strong point, I have to say. He uses some brilliant vocabulary, always does, and it's usually very appropriate with a few minor errors. So I wouldn't say it's going to be a 5, right? Which says uses a wide range of vocabulary, including less common lexes. That's definitely true. With fluency, precision, sophistication, and style. There are a few errors sometimes. Sometimes it's not quite right. Use of grammar is sophisticated, fully controlled, and completely natural. Any inaccuracies only occur as slips. No, I wouldn't go that far. What about a 3? I think we could probably get a 3, right? For language. Uses a range of vocabulary, including less common lexis, effectively and precisely. Uses a wide range of simple and complex grammatical forms, yeah. With full control, flexibility and sophistication. Errors, if present, are related to less common words and structures or as slips. Yeah, definitely. There were a couple of slips and there were definitely a couple of errors with sort of more sophisticated terms. So I think we could get a 3 for language there. So out of 5, what would be the average mark that this would get? I think I would probably go 2, 2, 3, 3, right? So we're probably bang on 2.5, right? So I think we'd probably get about half marks for this answer. The rest of you, let me know what you think. That's my honest opinion. I'm going to be correcting more writings later this week. Valentine has still got to see the second part of his video, which I will be making as soon as I can possibly get around to it. So, but that's for members only, by the way. Click the blue button. Become a member. Get more personalised content. Anyway, bye for now.